People often say, treat others how you want to be treated. What does that mean? To me, it means if you want to be treated with respect, if you want to be treated with kindness and care, if you want to be, however you would like to be treated, treat others that way. Why do we say that? I think it's so we can be an upstanding citizen, so we can be a positive social creature, like somebody who has positive encounters with other people, builds relationships, and is able to maintain those relationships. But what I'm finding a lot when working with clients in psychotherapy and mindfulness practice, and in myself, is we're able to treat others the way we want to be treated. We're able to treat others with patience and respect and care and kindness. But something that has been coming up a lot lately is, what about treating ourselves the way that we treat others? For a lot of people, we're able to treat others with patience and care and kindness and respect. But when it comes to treating ourselves that way, there's some sort of obstacle, some sort of block. Sometimes people will be judging themselves a lot, myself included. I think it's part of the human condition to at sometimes have doubts, uncertainties, judgments towards self. And if this was someone's friend, their best friend, the question I'll ask is, if your best friend came into the room and presented with the same situation, how would you treat them? And a lot of times the answer is, I would just sit patiently and listen to them. I would let them vent. I would validate them. I wouldn't have a hard time finding ways to say something to soothe them when it's a little bit removed. So a question I'll ask a lot when people will say things that would indicate that they're judging themselves, that they're uncertain, basically that they're going through a difficult time. I'll say, what if it was your friend that was going through this? And they'd very quickly be able to say, I would tend to them. So how about tending to ourselves in the same way? How about treating ourselves the way that we work to treat others? I guess in a nutshell, we're talking about self-care. It came up in the context of a meditation that I was guiding the other day. It was a guided meditation on emotions and thoughts. And part of the language that I used to guide it was, if there's something coming up in you, difficult emotions or automatic thoughts, sitting with them the way that you would sit with a friend. So if a friend is feeling extreme anger, sadness, or anything, a difficult emotion, it might be much easier for you to sit with them and give them space to feel without trying to fix it. Maybe at some point in your life you learn that people don't always want advice. People don't always want their problems to be fixed. Sometimes people just want a space to feel that in the presence of another person. And if you've learned this and you've been able to apply it effectively, then maybe people come to you when they're feeling angry, sad, whatever. Maybe they'll come sit in your presence just because you're not trying to fix them. You're not trying to give them advice. You're just giving them space. What about giving ourselves this same courtesy? Not trying to fix what's going on in ourselves. Not trying to give ourselves advice. just giving ourselves space. And it can be very subtle the way that we judge ourselves. Maybe even while I'm speaking. Sometimes I'll say things like this and I'll hear clients or people that mindfulness practitioners say, "You're right, I have to get better at that." And right there, listen to that language. I have to get better at even that. But that itself is a way of fixing. That's advice to the self. I have to get better. I'm not good enough at taking care of myself. So I need to get better at taking care of myself. What about no, I need to? What about I have to get better? What about just sitting with yourself the way you'd sit with a friend? If you've ever been around somebody who had recently lost someone and they're just crying, there might be an intuition in you to know that nothing really can be said or needs to be said. It's just a matter of feeling, just a matter of creating space. I think that's a more extreme example because grief is such an extreme emotion, but we can do this in little ways. Like whatever is coming up maybe doesn't need to be tinkered with, doesn't need to be worked out. We don't need to give ourselves advice. Maybe we can try as an experiment being patient with ourselves the same way we would be patient with our friend, our child, or our parents. maybe some of you are laughing thinking, I'm not patient with these people. What are you talking about? But what I mean is thinking of the people that it is easy for you to be patient with, kind with, courtesy, and to give them space, and granting yourself that same courtesy. And if you do find that it is hard for you to be patient with other people as well as yourself, and that there's a tendency to fix or to give advice or to try to control the situation, maybe the experiment could be as simple as, what would it be like if I sat with this for myself or this other person without trying to fix it, without trying to give advice? What if I just gave space for it to be processed? So treating ourselves the way that a lot of us are able to treat others, with patience, kindness, respect. It sort of like turns the cliche on its head. Treat others the way you want to be treated. But what if we tried to treat ourselves that way as well? What if we put ourselves on that list of people that we're treating that way? What would that look like for you? You can stop and consider, what would it mean for me to treat myself the way that I treat the people that I care and love the most, care about and love the most? You might consider one person in particular, somebody that it's easy for you to care about, easy for you to love, easy for you to be patient with. Someone or something, it might be a pet. And considering that energy, and maybe even just in considering this person, you might notice a visceral change in your experience. I know I do when I bring up a person that it's easy for me to love or be patient with, there's a softness that arises. What about entering ourself into that same space and approaching ourself with that same softness, that same love? I guess we're talking about self-care and self-love. I think it was Jack Kornfield who said, much of the contemplative practice is self-acceptance, self-love, maybe all of it. I think what he's pointing to there is that to love the self in the same way that we are able to love another person one that we have extreme love for. To love ourselves in that same way is fundamental to the practice, fundamental to being present, being aware, fundamental to living deeply with mindfulness. And why not love the self? I mean, life is short. We only have so many years. Why not build up the relationship with yourself?